They say Nicki Minaj got canceled the moment she thanked Donald Trump for highlighting Christian persecution in Nigeria. Clips spread like wildfire. Her posts turned frantic, unpredictable, and fans said her erratic behavior online looked possessed. Those same rumors only grew when, months before the headlines, she was quietly taken to a private facility. They called it exhaustion. Others whispered it was something spiritual. I can't speak for the world, but I was there. I saw what she fought to leave behind. And I learned that when something leaves a person, something else might be waiting to take its place. Officially, the facility is a private medical recovery campus outside Phoenix. Unofficially, it's where the industry sends people when they need to disappear without dying. We get musicians mid-breakdown, actors whose minds fracture under scrutiny, influencers who start talking like prophets. My job title is medical liaison, which is just a sanitized way of saying I'm the person between the doctors and the handlers, the one who sees everything and explains nothing. I don't believe in God. I never did. I was raised around faith like some kids are raised around secondhand smoke, constantly in the air, never truly my choice. I left church as soon as I could think for myself. I believed in symptoms, diagnoses, neurochemistry, things I could touch, things with data. Faith, to me, wasn't comforting. It was threatening. Because if faith was real, then so was everything I spent my life refusing to face. That's why I shouldn't have been on shift the night they brought her in. It was late, 2:17 a.m. according to the clock on the nurse's station, when the front access doors opened. Not the usual ambulance bay or intake garage. The front doors, like whoever was coming in outranked procedure. I heard footsteps first, heavy, synchronized, not panicked. The kind of walk you only learn from government training or a lifetime of private security. Two men stepped inside, suits, silence, comms in their ears. They moved like Secret Service, not the Hollywood kind, the real kind. One stood in front, one behind, like they were bracketing something dangerous. Between them walked Nicki Minaj, hair tied back, oversized hoodie, sunglasses indoors at 2 a.m. Her posture was composed, but her eyes, what little I could see, looked like someone who hadn't slept in weeks. Not someone exhausted, someone hunted by their own mind. They didn't sign her in. They didn't speak her name. They just slid an intake folder across the desk with no ID and one line typed where a medical history should be. Do not sedate without authorization. Do not isolate. Do not antagonize. Those are not notes for a patient. Those are warnings for a threat. I escorted her down the East Wing, room 210, our quiet hall, our containment hall. 2 agents stayed stationed outside her door, one in front, one behind, staring straight ahead like statues. They didn't blink. They didn't speak. The air around them felt staged, like the world was standing a few feet back to give something room. Inside the room, she sat on the edge of the bed, elbows on her knees, hands clasped. She didn't look at me. She stared at the blank wall like it was responding. I set the chart down, took her vitals, did everything by protocol. Pulse elevated, pupils reactive, blood pressure inconsistent but not alarming. Then I saw the monitor flicker. Her heart rate spiked, dipped, then duplicated. 2 pulse lines, one faster, one slower. I tapped the screen. The machine corrected, then split again, like 2 rhythms were fighting over the same body. Equipment malfunction, I told myself. It happens. Machines glitch. But the hair on my arm stood up like something disagreed. While I was adjusting the sensors, she whispered. So quietly, I thought she was talking to herself. They think I'm possessed because I was loud on the internet. She wasn't joking. She wasn't confused. She said it like a fact she was tired of living with. I tried to respond professionally. A lot of rumors get built out of nothing. She finally looked at me. No, she murmured. Rumors get built out of something. They just don't know what. The monitor spiked again. Before I could say anything else, A voice echoed faintly from the hallway, one of the security men speaking into his comm. Priest is en route. Prep 210. Priest, not doctor, not specialist. Priest. Like someone decided this wasn't medical anymore. I stepped out of the room to ask what the hell was going on, but the agent outside the door just raised one hand. Not touching me, not threatening, just blocking reality like a wall. Your job is observation, he said, not interpretation. The door shut behind me. As I walked away, something made me turn back, like an instinct, like a feeling I didn't want to name. Through the slim window in the door, I saw her, still sitting, still staring forward. And then her head turned. Not toward the door, not toward the window, directly toward me, as if she knew exactly where my eyes were. She smiled, slow, precise, wrong, not seductive, not performative. A smile like someone else was wearing her face. For the first time in years, I felt something I used to associate with Sunday school, with whispered prayers, with words I abandoned long ago. Fear of faith. Because if this was real, if any of this was real, then everything I didn't believe in had been waiting for me to look back. The facility didn't feel like a hospital anymore. It felt like a negotiation. Doors that were normally open were locked. Staff who usually nodded or joked in the hall now kept their eyes down. Even the air smelled different, sterile, pressurized, like something spiritual was being forced to behave like medicine. 2 more agents flanked the hallway to room 210, one ahead, one behind. Not like guardians, like parentheses, closing around a sentence. I should have walked away. I should have told someone I wasn't qualified for whatever this was becoming, but something pulled me forward. Not duty, not courage, dread. The priest arrived without grand entrance, just the sound of leather shoes echoing on tile. He wasn't dressed in flowing robes, no theatrical crosses, just a rolled sleeve clerical collar and a metal container cupped in both hands. Wax seals banded it shut, symbols etched into them like old wounds. He wasn't here to observe, he was here to finish something. The agents moved with him. Formation, precision, practiced fear. When he reached me, he didn't ask for my name. You were here when she arrived, he said. I nodded, and she looked at you. I didn't answer. I didn't have to. Something in my silence confirmed it. The agents unlocked room 210. The door swung open. Nicki Minaj didn't look sedated. She looked aware, sitting on the edge of the bed, hands clasped, as if she'd been waiting for the moment the door opened. Her eyes lifted, not at the priest, at me. You came back, she said, not accusation, not gratitude, recognition. The priest set the sealed container on a tray and began speaking, not chanting, not dramatic, just calm, like a man reading instructions off a page only he could see. The lights flickered. The heart monitor glitched, one heartbeat splitting into 2, overlapping like dueling voices. The air thickened, heavy with something that didn't have a shape yet. Then Nicki moved. She didn't stand. She threw herself forward, slamming into me with a force that didn't belong to her size or frame. We crashed to the floor. Her palms gripped the front of my scrubs, and her mouth hovered inches from mine. Not to scream, but to speak. Not lyrics from Monster as the world knew them. Not the version radio stations played. These sounded like the part beneath the music, like scaffolding. I was crowned before I understood the price. Built a kingdom made of neon and knives. They called it fame, but I called it hunger. Tell me, who do you think fed it? Her breath hit my cheek. Her voice vibrated like 2 tones arguing for the same mouth. Nurses rushed in. Security followed. It took multiple people to pull her off. She writhed, not like she was fighting them, but like she was fighting gravity. The priest didn't rush. He only watched, eyes narrowed, like this was the confirmation he had waited for. Nicki's voice dropped, layered and low. Roman wasn't born here. He arrived. He learned the words. He wore the crown. The priest stepped closer, not frightened, resigned. "It's almost time, Annika." Her body snapped still at her real name, a jolt like recognition or surrender. "We've been trying to reach you for a while," he continued quietly. "She doesn't need you anymore. Whatever purpose you served, it's finished." Nicki's head lowered, trembling. The room went silent. The priest nodded to the staff. "She doesn't need you to carry her," he said. "To the air, not to her. We'll take care of her from now on." Then he turned to leave with the container in his hands, agents falling into formation around him as though escorting evidence, not salvation. The most terrifying thing was how normal it looked. As the door shut behind them, I realized something cold and undeniable. They hadn't come to free anything. They came to collect it. And whatever they thought they finally had a hold of, I wasn't convinced it had stopped moving. They brought me into a side room that wasn't on the official layout of the facility, the kind of room you only learn exists when you've seen something you weren't supposed to. It had fluorescent hospital lighting, but the energy wasn't medical. It felt staged, like a conversation had already taken place in the walls before we arrived. 2 security agents stood behind me, silent, still, not guarding me, but containing me. I didn't see a door close. I just realized there was no exit anymore. The priest entered with the metal container in his hands. Up close, it looked older than anything else in the building. Wax seals wrapped around it, lines etched like they were carved with a memory instead of a tool. I expected a cross or some religious ornament. There wasn't one. In fact, it didn't look tied to a church at all, more like something the church tried to forget. He set the container in front of me like evidence. "You understand why you're here?" he said. I told him I didn't. He watched my face like he was studying damage from an impact. "When she touched you, you became part of this. We cannot perform an extraction with a loose end in the room. It follows the nearest recognition. It needs an anchor. You, unfortunately, were chosen." My breath caught in my throat. "Chosen by her?" "No," he said, as if the clarification should have been obvious. "By what recognizes itself inside her." Something in my chest tightened. I didn't believe in demons. I didn't believe in spirits or possession or incubus lore, but I believed in consequences. And I could feel consequences in the air around him like heat. I heard myself ask what the container was. "It's not a weapon," he said quietly. "It's a house, a very old house, built for things that should not walk freely." His fingers brushed the metal like he could feel something shifting beneath the surface. It was not crafted by priests, and it was not born from scripture. It's older than the myths that pretend to name it. My voice trembled before I could stop it. "What's inside her?" He didn't hesitate. "Something designed through attention. Fame is not its birthplace. Fame is its bloodstream. She calls it Roman. The industry calls it a persona. But personas don't grow fangs. Personas don't speak when their host sleeps. Personas don't try to choose new homes." Before I could ask more, the intercom clicked on, breathing, slow and deliberate, like someone pressed their mouth to the microphone. Then a voice, not hers, but wearing her voice-like clothing, murmured, "Are we ready yet?" The priest stood. "Preparation is finished. We begin." We left the room. The agents flanked me like parentheses. Nurses moved out of our path, heads lowered, lips pressed shut. They weren't afraid of her. They were afraid of acknowledging what she brought with her. If they spoke the truth out loud, they might be heard by something listening. The closer we got to room 210, the more reality felt like it was bending to accommodate something unwelcome. Door locks disengaged before hands touched them. Lights flickered not randomly, but rhythmically, like a nervous pulse. The facility wasn't malfunctioning. It was adapting. I saw movement through the narrow observation window and stopped mid-step. Nicki Minaj was floating. Not high, not dramatically. Just a few inches above the mattress, like the world was negotiating gravity around her. Sweat beaded down her forehead. Her eyes were closed, but her mouth was moving silently, like she was answering someone no one else could hear. Then she dropped to the bed, like an invisible hand set her down. She sat up and turned her head toward the window. The smile she gave me wasn't a threat, it was familiarity. Like something inside her recognized me the way a fox recognizes a weak fence. My name wasn't said, but I felt it, like a knock against my ribs from the inside. The priest placed a hand on my shoulder and leaned in. When we enter, stand to her left. If she reaches for you again, do not respond. Attention is permission. Permission is invitation. What happens if I answer her? I asked. Then she won't be the one we're saving. He opened the door. The air inside room 210 was thicker, dense like humidity before lightning strikes. Nicki didn't look up at the priest. She looked at me. Her voice came out like she had two throats layered on top of each other. Please don't leave me with him. If he can't stay in me, he'll need somewhere. He'll choose the one who already hurt him. Her hand twitched toward me like an instinct, not a decision. I stepped back. Not because I was brave, because I was terrified. A low groan rattled through the vents above us. The metal container on the tray vibrated, the wax seals rippling like something underneath was testing the walls. The priest lifted it, and the vibration stopped immediately, like whatever was inside recognized its name. "We start now," he said. Nicki's lips parted, not to speak, to breathe something out that didn't belong to breath. The temperature dropped. The lights stuttered. Something invisible pressed against the walls like it wanted in or out. I couldn't tell which. And that was the moment I understood. This wasn't about saving her. It was about stopping what wanted to be free. And I was the nearest exit. The exorcism began without a signal. It felt like the room already knew. Air pressed inward, tightening around us like we had stepped inside a throat instead of a hospital room. Nicki sat on the bed with her spine straight and her eyes open as if something had propped her there. She didn't look awake. She didn't look asleep. She looked held. The priest entered with the metal container, and every step he took made the temperature drop, as if something inside the walls drew back from him. He opened a small leather case, tools that didn't resemble anything from medicine or religion. They looked more like instruments for extracting a memory. He nodded once. "Hold her," he said. I stepped forward. My hands hovered near her shoulders. Her skin didn't radiate heat or cold. It radiated pressure like a heartbeat stored in the air around her. She didn't move. Her gaze stayed locked on the far wall until the priest placed the container at the foot of the bed. Then slowly her eyes shifted to me. That blank stare felt like being read by something that understood my insides better than I did. The priest began speaking in a tone that sounded like instructions written for creation, not for people. The language had weight, like each sound was opening and closing invisible doors. The ceiling lights didn't dim. They strained, as if illumination was something they had to remember how to produce. Nicki still didn't speak. Her body remained rigid in the straps. Then her jaw parted a fraction. Mine. That one word didn't echo. It stayed in the air the way blood stays on a blade. Quiet, intimate, purposeful. The priest stepped closer, voice gaining force. "You will unbind. She is not a vessel. Release her." Nicki turned toward me so sharply the mattress groaned. Her stare sharpened. Not rage, not panic, something older. Something that remembered. In a thin, breaking voice that sounded like it was being borrowed, she whispered, "Tell the Barbs I love them. Tell them what they're doing to me. They're trying to use me." Her face twisted, not with pain but conflict, like two decisions trying to exist in one expression. Then her head wrenched toward the priest, and her voice changed, heavier now, like another mouth formed inside her chest. "You never treated her as well as I did." Roman's voice didn't roar. It didn't growl. It coiled. It wound itself around the room and tightened. I felt it near my ear, though she never left the bed. The priest lifted the container, and the wax seals strained like tendons. The room reacted, not visually, but bodily. My lungs resisted my breathing. My heartbeat hesitated like it wasn't sure if it should continue. Nicki's body arched. A sound tore from her throat, not like a scream, but like something being pried loose from the inside. She lurched forward and I held her down, muscles trembling against strength that shouldn't have belonged to one person. A wet rattle crawled up her throat and she convulsed. Black fluid spilled past her lips, thick and grainy like melted charcoal. The smell hit first. Burnt iron, damp soil, old air from a sealed room. She gagged again, harder, and something solid forced its way up. A black stone clattered onto the sheets, then another. Then one larger piece, rough and jagged like a fragment of something that used to have shape. The priest didn't hesitate. He swept the stones into the container with a steady hand. The metal rang, not loud, but low, like a bell heard underwater. Wax closed over the seam like muscle healing around a wound. Nicki collapsed backward, eyes wide, breath sawing in and out of her chest. Her skin tone shifted. Not brighter, not healthier, just human, like something finally stepped off her. She blinked at me, and this time, her gaze wasn't blank. It landed. It recognized. Thank you for not leaving. The door opened behind me. A man in a suit walked in. No name tag, no insignia. He placed a document on the tray, his voice calm as water over stone. You'll sign this. What occurred was a medical event with psychological complications, nothing more. It wasn't medical, I said, my voice thin. He didn't argue. He just looked at me like I had said something childish. Language chooses reality. Choose correctly. I signed because my hands were shaking too hard not to. Nicki was helped to her feet. She didn't stumble. She didn't cling. She walked forward like someone who had to relearn how to exist inside her own body. The priest left with the sealed container. Agents formed around him like a moving vault. As they disappeared down the corridor, I realized they weren't guarding the container to protect us from it. They were escorting it like something precious, or dangerous, or both. My shift ended. The world didn't feel the same size anymore. What left her wasn't dead. It was simply relocated. And freedom is just another word for proximity. Months passed. Long enough for the paperwork to settle. Long enough for the memory of that room to pretend to fade. But it never really did. It stayed behind my eyes, like an afterimage burned there by lightning. Every time I blinked, I saw that stone hitting the sheets. Every time I tried to sleep, I heard that one word, mine. I told myself it was over. Extraction complete. Containment successful. Silence purchased by signatures. But silence is never the end. It's just the part where the next thing waits. I saw her again on a live stream, not in a hospital bed, not surrounded by agents, on stage, TPUSA, Erica Kirk beside her, bright lights, a cheering crowd, phones held high like open mouths swallowing everything they were fed. Nicki Minaj looked whole. No tremor in her hands, no shadow at the edges of her expression. Her eyes were clear in a way I had never seen in that facility, like someone had opened all the windows in her mind and aired the place out. It was the kind of clarity that makes you think redemption might be real. She talked about faith, not performatively, not like a script, like someone rebuilding an inner world brick by brick. She talked about coming back to what she left behind, about choosing God on purpose, not out of desperation. The crowd didn't know how much weight those words carried. They didn't know what I saw drag itself out of her body. They didn't know what almost chose me instead. Erica Kirk stood beside her, smiling and nodding, hands folded like she was presenting a miracle. But something about her posture felt rehearsed, not supportive, strategic. Like she wasn't standing with Nicki, but around her. Like a shepherd guiding something newly freed into a pen it didn't realize existed yet. As Nicki spoke about peace, I saw Erica glance at her the way someone checks a lock, not out of concern, but possession. That same kind of recognition I saw in room 210. Not supernatural, not demonic. Worse, purposeful. Something about the stage felt familiar. Not like Roman. Not dark in the same way, but structured, waiting. A place that didn't need monsters because it had systems. You don't need claws when you have influence. You don't need fangs when you have opportunity. You don't need a demon when you have a platform. And I understood something in that moment. Exorcisms don't guarantee safety. They create vacancies. As the audience cheered, I saw Nicki smile. Soft, grateful, relieved. She didn't look like someone manipulated. She looked like someone saved. But even salvation can be staged if the right hands hold the spotlight. TPU, SA banners waved behind her, and it felt like the beginning of something she didn't know she'd signed up for. Something she thought she walked into freely, not realizing someone else had opened the door. She wasn't possessed anymore. I believed that. But freedom comes with a cost. Roman had been removed, but something else had positioned itself near the exit, not inside her, beside her, maybe protecting, maybe using, maybe waiting. I turned off the stream before it ended. I didn't need to hear the applause. I had heard something bigger, a feeling, a warning. Faith had saved her. I believe that. I do. But faith doesn't prevent danger. Sometimes faith just makes room for the next battle. If you're still here after everything I've told you, then you know I don't think Nicki Minaj is lost. I think she's standing at the start of something she can't see yet. And maybe all we can do is watch and pray and pay attention to who's holding the microphone when she stops speaking. So let me ask you, after everything you heard, should she be canceled or protected, judged or prayed for, left alone or fought for? You tell me. Before you go, do one thing, like this. Comment your take. Subscribe so this story doesn't get buried. Because the moment something leaves, something else always comes to take its place. And I don't think she's alone on that stage.